And away we go. Monday edition of the show. All across America on SportsMap Radio. All over the world on the SportsMap Radio app. It's good to have you with us tonight. Yeah, it'll be a fun 3 hours. It's always a fun 3 hours, a busy 3 hours from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Eastern. Tonight will be no exception to that. I did not expect, I don't know, maybe that's my fault. I didn't expect the real NFL news junkie sort of thing to kick into gear until we got, back from my cruise on Saturday. So I go on a cruise Saturday. We're off on Friday. We'll be here Monday through Thursday this week. VSiN programming on Friday night. And then I'm off all of next week. The following week, I'm off on that Monday. And then I'm back for good on that Tuesday to get you ready for the NFL season and all. That's great. But I thought that it would probably be, mid-August before we really start to see some headlines around the NFL landscape. Once you start getting into some guys are dropping like flies injury-wise in training camp. You got guys getting suspended for the gambling stuff, which, I tell you, the NFL is like the FBI. They are on top of everything right now. They are on top. They are the NFL, like, sports betting police. They are on top of everything right now. Yeah, it's no joke, man. If you have bet on the NFL or done something anywhere near a violation of NFL league sports betting policy, you got to be looking over your shoulder every day, wondering when the anvil's going to drop. And today was yet another example of the NFL's stringent gambling policy, anti-gambling policy. Today was yet another example of the leagues making good on their promise to suspend guys and basically shelve them for a season. The what? Toy Story? Nah, I have not seen Toy Story. By the way, that's Charles Carter. Our producer engineer, working on the show, and he's going to be with us almost all week this week, which I'm very excited about. Some continuity at the producer spot. Charles will be with us every day except Wednesday this week, which I may come down with a mysterious illness on Wednesday. Hint, hint. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I'll be here on Wednesday. Broncos defensive end Ioma Iwazurike, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, suspended indefinitely for violating the NFL's policy on gambling. He bet on NFL games during the 2022 season, the league said. He could petition for reinstatement no earlier than July 24th, 2024. He's a fourth-round pick of the Broncos in 22. Played in 8 games last year, 165 snaps on defense. And the thought was he could get more playing time this year. Broncos said in a statement, informed he'd been suspended by the league indefinitely. Our organization cooperated fully. And they take matters seriously on, the integrity of the game. But, and Sean Payton was asked about this during the Broncos offseason program and said they got a packet from the league. Policies change, all of this stuff. And it really does make you start to wonder. And we've had this conversation before about guys getting banged, getting dinged for the sports betting policy. And I don't want to, I am not one of these people that says, the league is, the league's being too heavy handed with this, or they didn't get the message out. I have to imagine that everybody knows what the policy is or what the policy even was. I just find it hard. Why, if you're an NFL player, you would think, even if you didn't have a policy, let's just say for the sake of argument, that nobody in the league sent a policy to players. Let's just say the worst case scenario, which we know isn't true. We know the players got the policy through their teams, and if they didn't get them through their teams, that's the team's fault. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that they didn't. Where in your right mind, as an NFL player, would you think it is okay for you to gamble, even legally so? You know, Colorado is a gambling legal state. Where would you think it's okay to bet on the NFL? Even if you're not betting on your team, where would you ever think that it is okay to gamble on the NFL? Like I said, just pretend you didn't even get a policy. If you looked at your phone and you were like, man, should I bet? No, that's probably not a good idea. Like, it's something in your head would have to tell you. Something in that brain of yours, no matter how many times it's been jarred loose by the countless hits that NFL players take, right? Joking, not joking. You would have to know that betting on your own sport, probably not a good way to go. And yet here we have guys doing it. 1 year suspension for this kid. And I keep going back to this, and I'm going to say it again. If the league really wants to put a stop to this, just say it. Just put it out there. Just say, look, if we bust you for gambling on the NFL, if we bust you for if you gamble on the NFL, I can't speak. You could have varying degrees of suspensions for things like, the fantasy sports thing. You can't do fantasy football, things like that. You want to have varying degrees of penalties on some of that stuff, fine. But you should make a hard and fast rule if you're the NFL. If you even bet $1 on your own sport, on your own team, either of those two things, you're gone for good. And I think it'll put an end to all of this crap. Because, look, I say it all the time. Major League Baseball is in the same states that the NFL is in. And they have already set the example 40 years ago with Pete Rose, or 37, 38 years ago. They already set the example with Pete Rose, who will be in Cooperstown on Hall of Fame weekend every year, signing baseballs for the 30 people that will walk into the pizzeria where he's signing them. And that's as close as he's ever getting to the Hall of Fame, because he bet on baseball. That's the only example that sport ever needed, and nobody even thought of doing it again. That's not to say it may not still be happening through proxy betting and things like that. And we don't know how sharp the teeth of Major League Baseball's sports betting policy is. They may not even want to know if guys are doing it through proxy betting or through friends or whatever. The NFL has set the example. They have set the bar as it relates to this. But I can't figure out for the life of me. And we've talked to former NFL players about this. We've talked about it with NFL experts, insiders. I can't figure out for the life of me. Is this a situation where NFL players are just more prone to problem gambling and cannot resist the urge? Or is this the fact that the policy just wasn't out there enough for these players? Or is the NFL just policing it harder than anybody, bar none? And the answer is we just don't know, because we really don't know what those other sports are doing. But here we are on the eve of, training camps for everybody and the eve of preseason games. And we still got guys getting banged for stuff they were doing last season. Where's it going to stop? And it continues to be a cloud hanging over the NFL. It's good to have you with us tonight. 1-800-224-2004 is the telephone number. 800-224-2004. You can text the show at any time. 888-670-8549. 888-670-8549. That text line is just for this show. It's not for any other show on SportsMap Radio, any other show, anywhere. It is strictly a text line I created just for you, my listeners. 888-670-8549. Sean Drotar hosts in the afternoons on Mile High Radio in Denver. Sean Drotar will join us coming up 19 minutes from now, making his debut on the Cash-In. Somebody I've known for a long time, but it'll be the first time we've had him on the Cash-In. We'll get his thoughts on this suspension and the little cloud that hangs over. Not that this guy was expected to be a star for the Broncos this year, but certainly does cast a cloud at the start of Broncos training camp. We'll get to that coming up. There are baseball games going on. We'll tell you about those, the sports betting lines, and I will do a mea culpa on something I said last Friday. Put that in the pod. What? No, the trip starts. No, you didn't hear me, did you? The trip starts this Saturday. Yeah, come on, man. No. Come on now, you're becoming the number one housewife here soon, from what I hear. So you got to be on top of shit. That's what I've been told. I'll believe it when I see it. What's this? Well, don't fuck it up or it will be. Rolling along on this Friday edition of the show. One of the stories we didn't. 15 minutes past the hour. Glad you're with us on this Monday edition of the show. Coming up in 15, Sean Drotar, Mile High Radio in Denver. We'll get some thoughts with him on the interesting latest sports betting suspension. Ioma Uwazurike suspended. So that is coming up here. About 15. I have to do a mea culpa of sorts. I'll do that here in a couple of minutes. There are baseball games going on tonight. And, of course, we will give you the latest going on with those as it relates to the sports betting aspect of our show, which we do every night here on the program. Mariners and Twins tied at 3. They're going to the bottom of the 10th in mini. And we're starting to get to that time of the year where, I mean, this is it. This week is going to dictate a lot of what happens at the trade deadline basically next Monday. I mean, at this time next week, the trade deadline will be over. So this is a big week. This is a big week around Major League Baseball. Oh, I'm sorry. No, actually, I take that back. Trade deadline is a week tomorrow. A week from tomorrow. So this time next week, though, you will certainly know a lot of what's going down by the trade deadline. Not everything happens at the very last minute, but the Mariners are one of those teams that certainly could make moves at the trade deadline. We'll wait and see what they do. Huge series to start the week in Major League Baseball. Reds and Brewers battling atop the NL Central. That game tied at 2. Bottom of the 7th. In Milwaukee, Texas, and the Astros. Boy, we got all these tied. There are 4. This cannot be possible. There are 5 baseball games right now. 6 baseball games that are tied. That's crazy. There are 6 Major League Baseball games right now. Now, granted, one of them is in the bottom of the first, 0-0. But the other 5 are all into the game. And they are all tied. Mariners, Twins, 3-3. Reds, Brewers, 2-2. Rangers, Astros, huge series in Houston this week. Top of the 7th, 6-6. Cardinals, Diamondbacks, 2-2, top of 3. Pirates, Padres, 1-1, top of the 3rd. I mean, that is just, you can't make this stuff up, folks. You cannot make this stuff up. So we'll keep you posted on all these baseball games going on right now. And Yankees had a good weekend. They're off today. They play the Mets for the next 2 days on Tuesday and Wednesday. My Yankees. And I'm not going crazy. I'm not, I stuck a fork in the Yankees last week, and a lot of people said it might have been a little premature for me to do so. Because they're basically like a game out of the wild card spot in the American League. Look, they can make the wild card. They can make anything they want. This is not a championship team. I've watched championship teams this year. I've watched teams that are capable of winning a World Series this year. And I've watched the Yankees. The Yankees are not right now, as of tonight, capable of winning a championship. Now, maybe they've got something up their sleeves as it relates to making a move that makes them a championship team, 2 or 3 moves that makes them a championship team. As of tonight, Monday, July 24th, 2023, the Yankees are not a World Series team. And I feel very comfortable in saying that. The Twins have walked it off on the Mariners. It's a final, 4-3. Oh, boy. The Mariners just fouled up a ball in the outfield on a fly ball. Is that Ryan Braun that walked it off? That can't be Ryan Braun. Who was that just walked it off? Carlos Correa. Why would Ryan Braun's name come out of my mouth? He used to play for the Brewers. I don't know why Ryan Braun's name came out of my mouth. Carlos Correa just walked it off for the Twins tonight. So 4-3, Minnesota beats Seattle. Why would Ryan Braun's name come out of my mouth? Charles, do we have any beat on that? No, you got nothing for me on that? I had Ryan Braun on the brain, maybe. I don't know. Maybe Carlos Correa for a split second looked like Ryan Braun. Is that possible? Fair enough. So there are now at least there's a game that wasn't tied. Twins walk it off, beat the Mariners 4-3. Minnesota is still in first in the AL Central right now, jostling for the top spot there with the Cleveland Guardians. So, all right, I got to do my mea culpa. I've held it off long enough. I was trying to stall for time, hoping we might run out of time in the segment to do it. Last Friday on this show, I made a very declarative statement. I made it clear that Brian Harman would not win the Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. I said it, and I have to own it. I picked the field over one guy who had never won a major in his life at the age of 36, had only won twice on the PGA Tour, had been in this position once before several years ago and yacked it up. I was very comfortable in saying that Brian Harman was not going to win. And early on Saturday in his round, I was starting to feel vindicated. Coughed up a couple of strokes. Even early on Sunday, the same thing happened. Coughed up a couple of strokes. But when all was said and done, Brian Harman did two things really well. He handled adversity really well, and the guy made putts. My God, I think he might have missed one putt inside 10 feet the entire week. He only hit 2 putt bunkers. Think about this. On a course that is just filled with bunkers, he only wound up in the sand twice the entire week. And one of them was on the 18th hole when he had the thing wrapped up on Sunday morning. Well, Sunday morning, my time. That's all you need to know about how good this guy played. There were guys that played 2 and 3 shots out of some of these bunkers. He only landed in a bunker twice. So I give the guy all the credit in the world. Now, with all that being said, and I'm not trying to rain on his parade. Not trying to rain on his parade at all. You know, the weekend before this one, we had the epitome of a classic, right? We had everything you could want in sports. The finale of Wimbledon with Novak Djokovic and Carlos Alcaraz. That is everything you could want in a major sports event. Whether it's the PGA Tour, whether it's tennis. Everything you could ever want, you got it in that event. This was the complete opposite. Between the rain, the 10 and 11 waggles by Brian Harman every time he went to go hit a shot. Oh, my God. Kevin Na is calling. He wants his game back. I mean, that was hard to watch. You know, if golf wants to keep people interested, I can't wait to see what the ratings were like for the Open Championship this weekend. And I'm sure they're out there somewhere. I just haven't looked. Was anybody watching other than me? Other than the diehard golf guy? Was any casual sports fan watching the Open Championship this week? Because every time you turn it on and you watch Brian Harman hit a golf shot, you had to watch him waggle. You had to watch him regrip, waggle, regrip, waggle, look up, look down, look up, look down. 10 times on average every single shot. And look, he's got a certain routine. It works. He wins. But the sports fan doesn't win. The sports viewer doesn't win. The PGA Tour or golf doesn't win when he's in the lead and we have to watch every shot he hits the entire day. And every shot we have to watch him waggle regrip, waggle, regrip, waggle, regrip, waggle. No, literally, I'm doing this not for ha-has. I'm doing this because that's literally what you had to watch him do before every shot. It was agonizing. And this will be one of the least memorable Open Championships. Hell, one of the least memorable majors. Again, I said this last Friday on the show. It goes into that Sean McKeel, Lucas Glover. You know, that territory 1 year, 10 years from now, I'm going to say, hey, do you remember which major Brian Harmon won? And you're going to say no, because this wasn't memorable. Sean Drotar talks about the Broncos next. What? Yeah, but I have to have something. I have to. What'd you say? That's what I wanted to know. Because a number is just a number. You have to have something to put it up against. Yeah. That's good. Well, we'll come back to that later. Normal, this is live.
We keep seeing these gambling suspensions this offseason. After today's news, what would your message to players be?
What's the upside, fellas?
Yeah.
I just don't understand what the upside is. Integrity of the game, why even put yourself out there like that?
Yeah, obviously it's not something the league wants to see continue to happen, and obviously they're hoping that it's...
All right. Let me get this guy on. All right, Sean, hold on 1 second for me. Patching you through. Sean, you hear me? You hear me, Sean?
I can hear you.
It's Jason Page. How are you, man?
Yep, I got you.
You hear me? Everything good?
Yeah. Not too bad. Getting, of course, ready for the craziness, but that's just not here.
For sure, dude. All right. I'm going to have you on here in just a minute. Just hold the line, and we'll have you on. Hang on 1 second. You won't hear anything for a second here.
All good.
Good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio, SportsMap Radio app. Hanging out with you guys on this Monday. Sean Drotar's with Mile High Radio, one of our affiliates here at SportsMap Radio, carries my show. Get some thoughts with him here in just a moment on this. I think they said this is the 10th gambling suspension that we've had in the NFL. And this one kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think a lot of us knew this one was coming. Whereas there's been some warning a day or two before on a lot of these other suspensions related to the NFL sports betting policy. This isn't one of them. Sean Drotar, you can hear him afternoons over on Mile High Radio, joins us on the Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. And Sean, I mean, look, you know as much as we do, but how surprising was it to get this news today about Uwazurike?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes out of the blue, like you pointed out, it's kind of interesting. But I guess, as you mentioned, it's the 10th one of these suspensions. So I guess we need to stop being surprised that they happen. But it really is sort of fascinating because you're looking at a breakout of these suspensions, even though other leagues have similar type of things set up into their rules. And the NFL just seems to have a little bit more of an issue with it. I know the rosters are larger, and that can make it seem to be maybe bigger than it is. But these aren't really complicated. In the NFL, you're not told you can't bet on sports. You're just simply told you can't bet on NFL games, and you can't bet when you're in an NFL affiliated property. Whether that's a stadium that has a sports book in it, or a facility, or something to that nature. And in Uwazurike's case, it's something of a It's not much of an issue, I think, for the Denver Broncos so much as it is embarrassment, given the fact that the new ownership, of course, after last year, ends up being such a frustrating disappointment. To have this go right before veterans report into training camp, which happens tomorrow for the Broncos, and such a pivotal year for them under Sean Payton. So it's not the way you want to start, knowing that you're right on that first day. These are the questions you have to answer as a franchise.
Here's an interesting thought, though, Sean. And just play this out with me here. I'm just thinking out loud. You've got the Broncos. You've got the Avalanche. You've got the Nuggets. You've got the Rockies. You're telling me that the only guys that are betting on sports or really getting, betting on their own sports or doing things like that are these guys in the NFL? You're telling me nobody in hockey? Nobody in the NBA, which smaller rosters, granted, and nobody in baseball is betting on their own sport. It just makes me wonder if the NFL is policing it harder and has sharper teeth and more investigative tools than some of these other leagues. I just find it hard to believe that only the NFL has a problem with this.
It is, what the argument can be made there, and it really is a pretty good conclusion to make, that the NFL, which has by its nature, sort of bigger deals and everything, that they'd be more concerned about that and maybe police it more. But then again, the NFL also sort of has that protect the shield mentality, in which you would think out of everybody, out of all these leagues possible, the one that would just like to avoid the bad news if they possibly could is probably the NFL. But look, you're right. I mean, the reality is that there are all these other sports and all these other players, and this isn't happening across any other league to this extent, that maybe it is being policed in a fashion that's a little bit different, in part because, the league feels that they have maybe more to lose. But it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing for the league, and I'm sure that they don't intend for it to be. But I guess if the idea is that they are going to consistently be involved with betting outlets, that they are deciding that for whatever reason, we're going to be extraordinarily careful. We don't want anybody messing in the situations that we don't have control over. And so, we're going to make sure that we're minding the P's and Q's. And if we've got to bounce the Uwazurike's of the world, a guy that has, 17 career tackles after being a 6th-round pick last year, so be it. They can probably live with that. So when you're talking about the Calvin Ridleys, it's different. But when you're talking about the Uwazurike's, I think the league is more than okay with those guys being a cautionary tale to the bigger fish.
Spending some time with Sean Drotar on the show tonight. Does a great job. Catch him afternoons 2 to 4, Sandy and Sean on Mile High Sports Radio, joining us here tonight on the program. What do you want to see most in these early days, coming off the Hindenburg type season the Broncos had a year ago? What are you looking for in the early days of training camp out of this team?
Well, I mean, I'm expecting significantly better performance when you're talking about practices that are run tighter. You're talking about very meticulous things. But the Broncos have, prior to hiring Sean Payton, have hired 3 consecutive first-time head coaches, and the results have been not entirely surprising in that regard. So, yes, I'm expecting sort of more efficiency, more, for lack of a better term, professionalism, organization, top-to-bottom control. But it really is going to be the return to form for Russell Wilson that's going to dominate the proceedings out here in Denver, and rightly so, because he had an uncharacteristically, completely out of the blue career, almost undefining season in which this guy who was considered to be all but a potential lock, Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, all of a sudden finds all of that in doubt because his season last year was so awful.
Did we lose Sean? Uh-oh. I think we might have lost Sean. I don't know where he went. Sean?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you there for a second. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
That's okay.
But yeah, I think Russell Wilson's situation is going to dominate the proceedings for obvious reasons. And if the Broncos don't find a way to get him right, if Sean Payton can't find a way to get him to at least, if not at some of his all-time best, but certainly to a very effective form, it's hard to believe the Broncos can do anything. And that may be a long shot anyway, given the depth in the AFC, given the fact that this team has the Chiefs in their division. It's going to be tough, but it's probably not fair to have all eyes be on Russell Wilson, but to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah, that is absolutely the truth. What kind of grace period do you think they get with Peyton now? You know, sort of the new beginning. It may not click exactly the way it will in week 1 by the time we get to week 5 or 6. Does he almost have to play a little more in the preseason just to sort of get comfortable in Sean Payton's system?
I think so. I mean, what you're talking about in Russell Wilson is a guy that historically has sort of passed on the over-the-middle efforts and made sure he focuses primarily on the sidelines, something that the league is not doing as much as it used to, obviously. He's a guy that loves the deep ball in a league in which the average depth of target dropped again this year. So basically the problem with Russell Wilson is twofold. One, he was obviously awful, and you can make of that what you will, how much of that may have been on the coaching or lack thereof of Nathaniel Hackett and Wilson's efforts to basically just run things himself. But one way or the other, Russell Wilson plays a style of football that is increasingly going out of style in the NFL, holding on the ball for a really long time, taking big hits. These aren't the things that the teams want their quarterback to do anymore, but Russell Wilson continues to do it. And so it's very stylistically different. The presumption is, well, look what he did for Drew Brees. But Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, besides being smaller guys, don't really have any similarities in the way they play the quarterback position. So I do think that he needs more time in it. I think he needs more time to show that he can do it. I mean, as Sean Payton said in one of the early OTAs, confidence is demonstrated ability, and I think Russell Wilson needs that. Before
I let you go, I'm going to just switch gears for 1 second and ask you about something, because I'm kind of a closet Colorado Rockies fan. Can you explain me? Look, well, I am. Well, I have a history with the organization. I was their bat boy for their AA team the very first year they were in existence. So I will always have a connection to that organization. 1994, I was a bat boy for the team. So I'll always have a connection to the organization that way. So I'm trying to understand. We know why Oakland's been this bad for this long. We know why the Royals, consistently are bad, their World Series notwithstanding. What's the excuse in Colorado? Because they spend money, fans come to the ballpark, and this team just continues to be bad year after year. Why?
Well, there are a couple things behind that, obviously. And the number one is, unfortunately, it seems that ownership has run into things that ownerships across sports sometimes do. They're convinced they're baseball people, and they are not baseball people. And so they tend to acquire the wrong players. They tend to make trades. They tend to think that there's a quick Band-Aid fix. They tend to offer $180 million to Chris Bryant over, $70 million more than anyone else is offering because they're convinced that that's the quick fix. That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is, quite frankly, as you pointed out, people turn out. This is a top 10 team in attendance year in and year out. And what the owners have figured out is, as half the country seemingly tries to move here to Denver in the last few years, is they don't have to sell baseball. They have to sell Colorado summer. And that turns out to be a pretty darn easy sell, especially when you have a phenomenal rooftop bar and a terrific downtown location that is basically built around the stadium. It's easy to come to Denver and realize when you look at new stadiums around the league where people are trying to build a little town around it, that happened organically in Denver around Coors Field. And so they don't have to worry about selling all of that. It's all there for them. It's just been too easy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sean, I'm glad we got to do this. I haven't talked to you in years, and let's do it again sometime, all right?
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sean Drotar, catch a Mile High Radio, weekday afternoons, 2 to 4 p.m. Mountain Time. I'm Jason Page. We're coming back. More to do on this Monday edition of the Cash In at SportsMap Radio. Sean, thank you, dude. That was fun.
Yeah, sorry about the glitch there at the call.
No, it's okay. It's all right. Everything else was cool. You sound great, and thanks for coming on. It was good to catch up with you, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Anytime, obviously.
Thank you.
It'll be I don't know if the Broncos will be interesting when it comes to a football standpoint, but they may end up being interesting from a melodrama standpoint.
Yeah, that's the same. That's like the Jets this year. We're going to be watching just for the drama.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's what's going to happen again. We shall see.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Be well.
Yep, have a great night.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
I wonder if I truly wonder Have yourself a night, Chas McCormick. Oh, my God. The Rangers are falling apart in front of our eyes. Aroldis Chapman doing Aroldis Chapman things, ladies and gentlemen. There's a headline. Beep, 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 beep. It's just so bad. Aroldis Chapman gives up a 3-run home run in the 7th inning of a 9-6 game. It's now 9-9 in Houston, Rangers and Astros. And then on the very next play, Diaz hits a ground ball for the Astros. Routine ground ball to short. And Duran just one-hops the first baseman. It goes into the, goes to the backstop, and they got a runner on first. Chas McCormick, 6 RBIs. I said this last week. I'll say it again. This is why the Astros are better than the Yankees. Not because of Yordan Alvarez versus Aaron Judge or Carlos, Jose Altuve or Alex. It's the Yankees had injuries and they folded like a cheap card table. The Astros had injuries. Guys stepped up. Guys stepped up, man. I mean, that's all there is to it. Yankees get down 9-6 in the 7th inning of a baseball game. It's over, as Howard Cosell used to say. It's over. Astros get down 9-6. You still got sense. They can come back and figure out a way to win. Boy, Aroldis Chapman doing Aroldis Chapman things. Yeesh. Look, give the Rangers credit. They went for it. They went and traded for him. Chapman's having a nice year in Kansas City. And look, he may still have a nice year. I mean, nobody's perfect other than Mariano Rivera, and even he wasn't perfect. Jeremy Pena 0 for 3 tonight at the plate. Runner on first, 1 out. Bottom of the 7th in Houston. It is a 9-9 game. We'll keep you posted on that. Thank you to Sean Drotar for stopping by. I once had drinks with him when the Super Bowl was in Phoenix. Not this most recent one, but the one before. So it would have been like 2013 or 2014, something like that. Got to know each other a little bit. Does a great job in Denver on our affiliate there, Mile High Sports. Catch them Monday through Friday, 2 to 4 p.m. locally there in Denver. So here's what I have to ask. How much grace period do you get if you're the Broncos? And here's the reason I ask it. And I don't like doing this. Hey, let's go through the schedules and win, loss, win, loss. Oh, I've got the Broncos at 9-8 this year. and we write them all down and we all try to be smart. It's a way to kill time. And who knows? Maybe we'll do it on the show, Charles. I don't know. Well, now that I know you're going to actually be working on the show, that we can actually work on the show. Yeah, when I've got a different producer every night, I'm not talking to 3 different producers. I'm just not doing it. I'll just do everything myself, and how it sounds is how it sounds. Now I have a producer who's going to be on the show regularly, so I've been told. And if that's the case, then we'll plan some things. It'll be a bit more planned as I would like it to be. So, first 4 weeks of the Broncos season. Oh God, I can't believe we're doing this. It's July friggin' 24th. First 4 weeks. This is all I'm going to talk. Well, I'll give you the first. Let's see. Once you start getting into this, it's the rabbit hole. It's like opening up your TikTok to look at one thing. No, because what happens is you open up TikTok, you see one thing, and before you know it, an hour and a half later, you're still sitting there looking at dog videos. I know what's going to happen, but we're going to do it anyway. It's week 1 and week 2. The Broncos get the Raiders in Denver. They get the Commanders in Denver. Those are 2 games that when you look at them on paper and say, if this is a Broncos team with Sean Payton and an improved Russell Wilson, Those are games the Broncos got to win. Then they're in Miami for week 3. Tall order. Miami's going to be a contender to come out of the AFC if they're healthy. And if Tua Tagovailoa can avoid, his brains becoming mashed peas. Week 4, Denver's in Chicago to play the Bears. And again, that'll probably be a pick'em game. On paper right now, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go look. I'm going to look at the NFL week 4. You could actually do this, which is kind of sad. NFL week 4 and see what the, I'll bet you that's like a pick'em game right now. NFL week 4. Well, let me look that far ahead. Come on, you stink. No, I guess I can't look at it. I guess I can't look week 4 NFL betting lines. Let's see if I can find this. Week 4 NFL betting lines. There are lines. I know this because I talked about it with my friend, the great Scott Seidenberg. Let's see if we can find it here. Do you? Do you? Yeah. That's what I mean. They should. Commanders aren't very good, though. All right, so hold on. I got it. Here we go. Broncos are minus 1.5 in Chicago. So they're actually favored to win that game in week 4. Okay? So we're talking about 3 of the first 4 games, they're going to be favorites. Would be, I think, a fair estimation. So you got to, at the very least, you've got to go 2-2, if not 3-1. Because then the schedule gets tough. Then they are home against the Jets. They are home against, they're in Kansas City against the Chiefs. And then they're home for the Packers. And I don't know, the Packers are the symbol for the Packers season should be like the Riddler, just a big question mark. Because I don't know if anybody knows what the Packers are going to be yet. Because they got a quarterback who's taken like 7 snaps, it feels like, basically, since he got into the league. Then they get the Chiefs again. They get the Chiefs twice in 3 weeks. Talk about an FU from the schedule maker. So in their first 7 weeks, they get the Chiefs twice. They get the Dolphins. I mean, it's not and then week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they get the Bills in Buffalo. I mean, their schedule's not easy. Then they get the Vikings, granted in Denver. That's November 19th. They don't have many layups on the schedule. They have got, you know what? I take it back. They got to be 3-1 out of those first 4 games to have any shot at even making the playoffs because they don't have a lot of layups on the schedule after week 4. After week 4, if you want to call them layups, I mean, Cleveland's not going to be a pushover this year. The Texans, that's a layup. The Chargers, that's not a layup. The Lions, we know how good they're projected to be, although they had a big injury today. They get the Patriots late in this. Wow. It is not going to be. Let me tell you something. If that team is 1-3 or 2-2 through the first 4 games, they're in trouble. They're in trouble because they've got a tough schedule. I hate it. God, I hate it. I hate the fact. I hate doing this stuff. Yeah. It's all right. Is it time for the second hour yet? It's 9-9, top of the 8th in Houston. Game of the night in Major League Baseball. Although I think we could probably also say that Milwaukee and Cincinnati is game of the night material in Major League Baseball as well. So we're keeping an eye on the baseball. Huge week around the league. It's still 2-2 Cincinnati and Milwaukee in the top of the 9th in Milwaukee. St. Louis now leads the Diamondbacks 5-2. That game in the bottom of the fifth. Pirates running roughshod on the Padres, who could be big-time sellers at the deadline. 7-1 Pirates on top of the Padres. Dodgers on top of the Blue Jays 1-0 in the bottom of the third. Keep you posted on that as well. All right, hang out for a few minutes. We're coming back on the other side. Hour number 2 of the Cash In. I'm Jason Page. Good to have you with us. Jason Cole will join us in about 35 minutes to talk some more NFL. Stay with us. Thank you, sir. Ugh. God. It's just a reminder that the NFL season is here. Sure you don't want to move to Denver, babe? Huh? What? Got a gay governor. Actually, it's not. She's in Georgia. It's the other one that's in that state. Bo, yes, Bo Bobert. But that's not her district. She's in like the sticks somewhere. At least take a look at it. That's you. Turn your stuff off or bring it in there with you. Another hour of the show starts right now on SportsMap Radio and the SportsMap Radio app. Thank you for listening wherever you are ingesting this show tonight. Good times. Good times. Charles Carter is our producer engineer. Thank you to Sean Drotar, who joined us in the first hour of the show. If you missed our conversation, that was our 2-for-1, which means we'll have it for you again in the final hour. So you'll want to stick around for that, obviously. Speaking of the Rockies, we actually mentioned the Rockies on the back end of that conversation. Rockies win tonight. Beat the Marlins, I want to say. I'm not 100% sure, but pretty sure the Rockies beat the Marlins. I know they're on the road. Let's see here. See if I'm right. Yeah. Oh, no. Rockies beat the Nationals tonight, 10-6 in D.C. Battle of the two worst teams in the National League. Rockies improved to 40-60 on the year. Despite how bad the Rockies, Nationals, and Cardinals are, they're not even close to being as bad as the Royals and A's are. There's worst team in your league, and then there's worst team in baseball, and they're two completely different things. My boy Ezekiel Tovar continues to rake. 3 for 5 tonight for the Rockies rookie shortstop. And boy, Nolan Jones, if there's one, there are two positives to this Rocky season. One, it's the development of Ezekiel Tovar. And the other is Nolan Jones, basically the castaway of Cleveland, who was one of their stud prospects in that organization, who they basically just said, you can go somewhere else. And now he's thriving with the Rockies. Hit his 9th home run of the season tonight. He has, how many RBIs does Jones have? He's got 22 runs driven in, hitting 282. And he wasn't with them at the start of the season, so that's what's going on with them tonight. Rockies beat them. Bottom of the 9th right now, Milwaukee. Runners on 1st and 2nd. And nobody out for the Brewers as they try to hold off the Reds. A battle for first place in the NL Central. We got some big series this week. One in the AL West with Texas and Houston. The other with Cincinnati and Milwaukee in the NL Central. And a whole lot of series that are going to dictate what happens here at the trade deadline. Baltimore won again tonight. The Orioles just continue to win baseball games, folks. It is amazing. Baltimore just continues to win. Beat Philadelphia on the road tonight. Milwaukee, have they just won the game? Yes, they have. Brewers walk it off against the Reds 3-2. That is now a final. Christian Yelich, the game winner. The old veteran, Christian Yelich, walks it off, and they chased him all the way to the stands and around third base where the fans are there going nuts. Big crowd tonight in Milwaukee for this game as well. So the Brewers beat the Reds by a final score of 3-2 to take the opener of that big 3-game series. I mean, you would think Milwaukee or Cincinnati on some level would have to be buyers here at the trade deadline, wouldn't they? Given the fact that, and frankly, Cincinnati, believe it or not, usually we think of the NL Central as a one-team playoff division. Usually you don't get a wild card team out of the NL Central because it's much like the AL Central. The records in the AL and NL Central are always so mediocre that your wild card teams come from the AL East, AL West, NL East, and that's not the case this year. Cincinnati is actually a team right now with a shot to be a wild card team if they don't win the divisions. I would think the Reds would be buyers on some level here at the trade deadline, but I guess I'll have to wait and see. So it's a final in Milwaukee. Hello to our friends listening in Wisconsin on our affiliates there. What was the announced attendance tonight in Milwaukee? Let's see. 29,216. It's not bad for a Monday night. Not a bad crowd. Well, Christian Yelich has been doing it forever, man. I wonder where Yelich falls in terms of career numbers. Not to go geek out on this stuff, because we know I could easily spend the next 15 minutes doing something that nobody will care about, which is the career numbers of Christian Yelich. He's hitting 289 this year. He's having a nice season. 289, 14 and 55, 22 steals. You know, that's not any small thing for a guy that's been around a long time. You know, you don't think of Christian Yelich as having been around a long time. This is Christian Yelich's 10th year. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is 11th season in the league. You don't think of Christian Yelich as being that old, but been around a long time. About 1,500 hits. See, I told you. You fall into that rabbit hole. Boy, 2018 and 2019, there weren't many guys better than Christian Yelich. 2018, he went 36, 110, 326, 36, 110 in 2018. Then he went 44, 97 in 130 games in 2019. He strikes out a bit, but everybody does in baseball these days. But, you know, he's stolen 30 bases. He's gone over 20 steals like 4 or 5 times. Still a heck of a player, and certainly a leader when you talk about that Brewers clubhouse. And the other big news, by the way, with the Brewers, they brought up their stud prospect, Sal Frelick, over the last few days. And he's come up swinging. 9 ABs, a home run, and 3 RBIs. And he's hitting .556 in those 9 at-bats. Sal Frelick is a guy to watch. 23 years old, part of that farm system that's got 2 or 3 really good prospects. Jackson Chourio is one. Jefferson Kiro is another. Milwaukee's got a few guys coming. You know, it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier today. You know, the Yankees brought up all these prospects in the last couple of years. Oswaldo Cabrera, Oswald Peraza. They brought up Anthony Volpe. You know, they've brought up these prospects. And you go and look at what their prospects have done. And let's be honest, they've all kind of struggled. Volpe's been good defensively. He's had some moments at the plate, but, you know, he strikes out too much. He was getting hitting advice from one of his minor league teammates, which helped sort of turn him around. Go look at the Orioles prospects that they've brought up. This is the difference between, you know, prospects for an organization that is drafting high every year like the Orioles were, and a team like the Yankees who was always drafting low when it came to prospects because their record was always so good. And it's the difference between hitting on prospects and missing on prospects. And it's the difference when people start saying, well, the Yankees, you can't possibly part ways with, you know, Jason Dominguez, who's one of their big minor league prospects. You can't possibly part ways with Jason Dominguez, or you can't possibly part ways with Anthony Volpe. Prospects are complete crapshoots. And as far as we've seen from the Yankees, they haven't hit on a prospect in a while. Think about the last time the Yankees hit on a prospect. Aaron Judge? You can give me somebody else? Who have the Yankees hit on with prospects? I mean, they traded away Montgomery, who's done pretty well at times in St. Louis. He certainly did well against the Yankees, and he pitched well last year before it sort of went off the rails this year. But, I mean, the Yankees have, Jordan Montgomery was who I was talking about. Go look at the prospects for the Orioles this year. Jordan Westburg hit his first. I mean, these guys are producing the second they get to the big leagues. Gunnar Henderson, Ryan Mountcastle, Adley Rutschman. The Orioles have a chance to be the Yankees of the late 90s and early 2000s. You heard me right. That is not hyperbolic. That is not being blown out of proportion. Go look at the Yankees. They brought up the Bernie Williams, Jorge Posada, Derek Jeter, Pettit, the core four, as they're known, Mariano Rivera, all these guys. And the Yankees hit on those prospects. And what was part of the reason they hit on those prospects? First of all, they were higher draft picks. And that farm system was run in a different way. Orioles are hitting on all of these guys. I mean, we've talked about this before, but go and look here real quick before we run out of time this segment. Mountcastle hit his 12th home run tonight, 42 RBIs. Gunnar Henderson's hitting 244, but has been great in the field, and really it feels like since about the 75 game mark of the season has started to hit it. Jordan Westberg's hitting 266 in his first season. Colton Cowser came up and started hitting right away. And they've been able to bring up all these prospects, and none of them look overwhelmed. And there's one thing to be said for that, too. You ready for this one, Charles? It's the difference between being a prospect and coming up playing in Baltimore and in a market where if you get 15,000 fans on a Wednesday night, it's a big crowd. And the difference between playing in New York, where you're playing in front of 40,000 people every night. The bright lights of New York can make a lot of guys wither. We're coming back. It's true. It's true. It's hard being a prospect in New York. It's tough, man. Now, you're in Baltimore, there's, 7 media members there. There's seven members of the media there from the whole team. Dude, in New York, it's a packed press box every night. You got 40,000 people there booing everything you do wrong. Still 9,999. 9. Jason Cole. The hell's the name of it? Fuck. Continuing on. Bottom of the 8th in Houston. 9-9. Oh, that's a great pitch. That's strike 3, man. What are you sitting there talking to the umpire for? Go back to take your bat, walk back to the dugout, dude. Come on. Was that Dubon that just struck out looking? Swing the bats! 2 strikes. Anything close, you got to be swinging. Coming up in 15, that would be me if I was in the stands. Swing the bat! Take it off your shoulder! What do you mean, if I'm at a game? As I've gotten older, I've become pretty tame. I hate to say it. When I first started going to games, I was locked in for every pitch. I had my scorecard, the program with the scorecard. Like, I was that guy. As I've gotten older, I've become more spend half the game looking at my phone and snapping a few pictures and eating and there for the experience. But, you know, yeah. And generally now as I get older, I sit in good seats. And when you sit in good seats, you can't act like a boob. You know, you got to, when you're sitting in good seats, when you're sitting in the bleachers, you can yell certain things you wouldn't yell when you're 10 rows from the field or 15 rows from the field. Okay. If it's not the Yankees, I'm just there to be entertained. If it's not, and this year's been tough for me. I don't know why, but I'm taking the Yankee season hard this year. I have not taken a Yankee season this hard since I was in high school. Listen, outwardly, if you've been listening to the show for the last few weeks, I've been living and dying with every single pitch of the Yankees. Last year, I have to say, the Judge stuff, I was riveted by the home run, Aaron Judge home run chase last year. Like that really got me going. Unlike last time I got really into anything in baseball like that, remove the Yankees from it. If anybody was chasing the number he was chasing last year, I would have been just as riveted. The fact that it was a Yankee was a bonus. But, I mean, the last time I could remember being that riveted to anything was 98 with Sosa and McGuire chasing down Roger Maris, which we, of course, all now know was a fraud. But I was 98 was my first year that I covered a Major League Baseball game as a member of the media. Yes. Yep. The very first, you want to talk about you can only go downhill from here? The second Major League game I ever covered, the first 2 games I ever covered, 98. I was working in Chestertown, Maryland for a radio station named WCTR. You can go look it up. Matter of fact, they might not even be in business anymore, but you can look it up. They used to be. I don't know if they're still in business. I mean, this tiny little station on the eastern shore of Maryland, WCTR radio. I was their like sports and news director. It's one of those stations where there's like 4 people working at the whole station. I was doing sales, I was doing news, I was doing sports. But the biggest reason I did it was I knew I was only an hour or so from Baltimore. So I can go get credentialed to go cover Major League Baseball games for the first time in my life. And in 98, on September 19th and 20th, I was 20 years old on September 19th, 98. I covered Orioles and Yankees, or it was the 20th and 21st. I don't remember. It was 2 days. One of them was my birthday. And the day after was the day that Cal Ripken decided to sit. He ended his streak, and I was there. Second Major League Baseball game I ever covered Cal Ripken sat. And it's like, oh my God. I mean, I got to cover this, historic event of Cal Ripken sitting. And I was there. And I was like, wow, this is what covering sports is like. And I got, wide-eyed and all that stuff. Those were the first 2 Major League Baseball games I ever covered. Was Yankees-Orioles at Camden Yards, this gorgeous ballpark, which back then was still practically brand new. In fact, it was still so brand new, the Orioles' old ballpark, Memorial Stadium, was still down the street. I went and drove by it. That's how new Camden Yards still was at that time. So, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. But yeah, as a fan, the only stuff I really go crazy about are the Yankees. I grew up a Giants fan. Whatever, they win, they lose. Same thing with the Knicks. The Knicks are probably the next closest thing I really get into after the Yankees. Do you hear that sound in the background? That's my dog chewing on a bone. We gave him a steak. Last night we gave him a steak bone. We went over to our friends Paul and Michael's. Love those guys. We went over to Paul and Michael's last night for these gigantic steaks. If you go on I don't know if I put it on my Twitter. It's definitely on my Facebook. I might have put the picture on my Twitter. If I didn't, I'll put it up there. I had a steak it was like Fred Flintstone size steak. Like if you would watch the Flintstones, I ate a steak last night that no human should consume. This thing was massive. I had this massive steak last night. And we have the bones from the steak, and we come home and give them to the dog. And he picks every single piece of meat on it until there's nothing left. But just a big white bone, and that's it. So that's what you heard. The dog's still trying to find anything he could on that bone. That's what you heard. Now, it wasn't anything on your end, pal. It's okay. Jason Cole will join us coming up in 8 minutes. The senior NFL writer from Outkick.com, who does a terrific job on all things NFL. I'm interested to get his thoughts. It feels like every few weeks now we have one of these NFL sports betting stories that comes up, and we get them on and talk about it. And it seems like the answer is always the same, just that the league is really doing its due diligence as it relates to this. There is news on Tyreek Hill reaching a settlement in this marina incident that took place during the offseason. We covered it on this show, but a settlement has been reached in that case. An incident in a Miami Beach marina last month. The parties to the incident, which occurred on June 18th, 2023, involving Tyreek Hill, have resolved their differences. Sounds like a legal statement. Hill allegedly, according to WPLG TV in Miami, Tyreek Hill allegedly hit a marina employee during a disagreement. Miami sports radio show host Andy Slater reported that Hill slapped the employee on the back of the head, but said the person declined to press charges at the time. Incident was under investigation by the Miami-Dade Police Department. No charges were ever filed. You got to imagine the NFL will just probably leave this alone. And he is a huge component to what the Dolphins are going to do this year. Dolphins veterans report to training camp on Tuesday. And look, you could talk everything you want about the Dolphins this year. It all starts and ends with Tua Tagovailoa, and can he stay healthy? Because when Tua was on the field last year, that team was a contender to come out of the AFC. And when Tua wasn't healthy last year, it was a mishmash of Teddy Bridgewater and some other guy whose name escapes me, and it doesn't really matter because if he's on the field, it means Miami's not going to win. I mean, that's it. Tyreek Hill is guaranteed that he's going to go over 2,000 yards this year, by the way. Speaking of running backs, I got to talk about that with Jason Cole too, because now you've got the Players Association and running backs actually getting together to try and figure out why running back salaries have basically turned into kicker salaries. We'll get into that with Jason Cole as well. All right, don't go anywhere. Senior NFL writer Jason Cole joins us on the Cash In. I'm Jason Page, SportsMap Radio. This will be live. What? What's the matter? What? Your what? Why is this going on tonight? Oh, shoot. It's a Chupuch. The tail. It's a happy dog. Who's a happy dog? Me. I'm the happy doggy. Who's a happy dog? Come here, happy dog. Who's a happy dog? Good boy. The happy dog. Yep. All right, you got a minute. Get out of here.
Hey, can you give me 1 minute and call me back?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
What? Where's the key with the phone? I don't have any idea. It's probably in your thing, like always. Oh, look. Where is it? As always, because you don't hang it back up. Galoot. Bye, Dookie. 9-9, bottom of the ninth. Hunting peckers. I'm a hunting pecker. Oh, the game's over. I was like 6 minutes behind. Houston just walked it off. Good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. Hanging out with you on this tremendous Monday night. Houston walks it off against the Rangers tonight, 10-9, the final. And the Astros get a little closer. Was that Jeremy Pena that walked that? No, it was Diaz that walks it off. So Houston beats Texas 10-9. Thank you, Aroldis Chapman. He gave up a 3-run home run when this game was 9-6 in the 7th inning. Aroldis Chapman doing Aroldis Chapman things. Let's talk some NFL now with our good friend. Oh, hi, Jason Cole.
Hi, how are you?
Jason Cole does a great job. Outkick.com senior NFL writer joins us on the show. I talked about it in the first hour of the show with a Denver sports writer. But again, what's this? The 10th, sports betting, gambling related suspension in the last 2 years, basically, for the NFL. And I keep saying this. I was talking to somebody out of Denver, and I said, you mean to tell me that the only guys gambling on sports in that city are NFL players with 4 major league sports teams? And if you count Colorado's MLS team, 5, you mean to tell me that those are the only ones betting on sports are NFL players? I'm not buying it.
No, they're the only ones dumb enough to get caught betting on something that would get them suspended. Is that a fair way of putting it? I
can't help but wonder if the NFL is just. I just think the NFL is far more dogged in their rooting this out and finding guys that are doing the type of betting they're not supposed to. I can't help but think there are guys breaking the rules in these other sports that just aren't getting caught.
That's probably true. But I would say that, look, I would go with this is also new in football, that that they're sort of figuring it out as they go. The NFL is incredibly dogged about this issue. I'm going to be very careful about this issue to an unreal extent because they have to, because they are freaked out about the possibility of a betting scandal. That is the last thing they want to ever have happen in their sport. And the NBA did everything in the world they could to avoid it. But even they, had to live with a pretty serious one with Donaghy.
Yep.
That they're lucky didn't get any further. And baseball, I think, but baseball does a really good job of reminding everybody every so often, hey, by the way, Pete Rose is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, baseball doesn't have to. They've got the poster boy that's there for all to see, and so I don't know if baseball will ever have the problem. But that also makes me ask the question: should the NFL just say, all right, if you're caught gambling on the NFL or gambling in a facility, you're done? Wouldn't that put an end to this right away? Wouldn't guys immediately just stop?
Yeah, I mean they would. I mean. Yeah, I mean, just one guy's got to go. But, do they want to fight that fight? Because it's going to be a court fight, right? And they probably will lose, especially on the standard that, I'm trying to think, how do I phrase this? Like that, you're in bed with gamblers anyway,
yes. Yep.
Right? So if you're doing business with gambling sites, you're doing business with casinos. Your teams have all sorts of advisory, relationships with casinos. The bottom line is, it's hard to separate this one. It's hard to parse it out. And I don't think they want to get into a big, huge fight with the Players Association and have to give anything up just yet before they figure something out. So for now, we're probably going to deal with one of these little suspensions after another. And then if they get somebody who's big enough and they do something egregious enough and they feel like they can take a stand, yes, they'll simply do a Pete Rose to them. And that maybe solve it. But I don't think that you're ever really going to see anybody doing gambling that egregiously, if it makes sense.
Yeah, I think this year will be the greater test, because the argument a lot of people will make was, well, it was kind of vague, we didn't really know, and all of these are suspensions dating back to last season. I want to see what happens for 2023 if we're still seeing that number of guys that are still breaking the rules. Then you've got a real problem that might be something that is specific to the NFL that we have to have a conversation about, right?
I would think so. I mean, look, I think, the only problem the NFL has is they're sort of making it up as they go.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make it up as you go, it's hard to enforce standards later on.
That's what this league does with so many things, though, Jason. Let's be honest. I mean, they make it up as they go with a lot of things.
I understand that. But all I'm saying is they make it up as they go along. And when you do that, when you make it up as you go along, then when you try to finally have a rule, you have to have an ironclad agreement on that rule with your Players Association to make it work right. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely it does. Talking with Jason Cole, Outkick.com, senior NFL writer, joins us on the show. I like the signing for the Raiders. Think what you want of them this year, the Jimmy G show and all. But, Marcus, they were terrible last year. I think they had 6 interceptions all year last year. They go and get a 3-time Pro Bowl corner in Marcus Peters. You like it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. It's what Peters needs. He needs a short-term deal to try and prove himself to see if he can get anything long-term. So you got a guy who has incentive to play well. So I think that fits right. I mean, Peters, the downside with Marcus Peters is he doesn't have a long history of the greatest bit of self-control in the world. So if this is a situation that goes awry and he doesn't play particularly well, he could blow up. He's just that kind of guy. But, he has talent and he's played well enough over his whole career. So you just deal with it. And you take your chance on him. He makes them better, not long-term better, but as of today, if they have to go play a game, and, literally not today, but if they got to play a game, by the start of the season, they're better with Marcus Peters than not.
This might be a tough question to answer when I say give me 3, but give me the 3 storylines that you find most compelling as veterans report to camp that you're really going to be watching the most.
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, number 1. Zach Wilson and the whole Jets situation, but that revolves around Aaron Rodgers, if that makes sense. And then I think that after that one, look, there's a lot of hot spot teams.
There really is. The Cowboys are always with, what does Dak do this year? Coming off all the interceptions last year.
Dak, I mean, the whole Miami situation, like what are they doing with Tua? The Buffalo situation, can they finally get it done in Buffalo, or will they miss their window? I mean, I think that there's a good chance their window's open for a while, but they've been about as good as you can possibly imagine the last 2 years. And 2 years ago, they just barely lost out, in a brutal playoff game. Last year, they peaked way too early and weren't ready for the playoffs. And obviously, the whole DeMar Hamlin thing, probably pushed their season, askew at the end of the year as well, right? But do they have enough mental toughness to get through that and take advantage of what they have? So that's a pretty important one as well. So those ones get me. The 49ers, they probably got 2 years left. with this group because Kittle is just barely, holding it together physically. And Debo plays so hard. I don't know how long Debo's going to last. And they've got to make it happen in a hurry with that little quarterback. And he's little, but he's good. I mean, he's really good for what he is. I mean, I think that's one of the best stories to watch in football is how that guy's going to play over a whole season. Because I'm not sure what the answer is.
Yeah.
But for half a season, he was awesome.
Jason Cole, senior writer, Outkick.com on the NFL. Good to talk to you, my friend. We'll do it again soon.
Anytime. Be good, man. Later.
We're coming back. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, man. You're working with an effing pro, man. This ain't no amateur hour. Plus, I think Jason kind of knows my cues. Like if I start saying yeah, like if I'm making noise, it means you got to stop talking. Wow, Arizona's come all the way back. They lead St. Louis 6-5. They were down 5-2 in that game. How is this guy getting Jim Leland on his show? That's what I'd like to know. He's on like 15 stations. He's getting Jim Leland on his show. I gotta hire a guest booker. That's what I gotta do. Arizona leads St. Louis 6-5. Blue Jays and Dodgers are tied at 2. Keep you up to date on what's going on in those games as well. You see this? Joe Rogan. Here's how big Joe Rogan is. Supposedly, Donald Trump wants to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, and Joe Rogan keeps turning him down. There was a time in this world where if you could get, like, I got to be honest, there is not a planet or a world where I would vote for Donald Trump. But if Donald Trump said he wanted to come on my show, of course I'd put him on. I'd ask him every hard question that, nobody on these conservative outlets will ask him. And, we'd do 10 minutes. He'd be miserable, and then he'd exit stage left. But I mean, like, you're Joe Rogan, and you're just basically saying, nah, you know what? I'm good. Rogan has turned down numerous requests, according to a report, for Trump to come on. Rogan has stated he's not a Trump supporter and that he has no desire to give the 45th president a platform, even though a large chunk of the podcaster's 11 million listeners support Trump. And the two were seen shaking hands during a recent UFC fight in Vegas. Trump urged his advisors to explore further avenues for a sit-down. One of Trump's formal advisors, Roger Stone, has reportedly offered to engage Rogan in a UFC-style cage match in hopes of forcing the podcaster to interview the former president, according to the news site. Dude, Roger Stone's like 70. If he'd gone to a cage with Joe Rogan, he'd be dead inside 5 minutes. I mean, say what you want about Joe Rogan. He's a giant meathead. And that's just the facts. And don't sit here and tell me, but he gets paid X number of dollars and all these people listen to him. It is podcasting for whatever. I'm not going to say it because some of our listeners might listen to him and knock yourself out. You want to listen to Joe Rogan? Go ahead. Oh no, I always just think of Celebrity Deathmatch on back in the old days on like MTV. Celebrity Cage Match was the greatest thing ever. The claymation figures just tearing each other apart, and they used to have celebrities get in there. Oh, it was great. I was watching something the other day. I was watching Seinfeld the other day, and I was watching an episode, and my husband and I looked at each other, and I said, I don't think this could ever make it onto TV today. Like it was that people would say, the woke mob that a lot of people like to point to, that political correctness is at such a point, rightly or wrongly, and we could sit here and debate the merits of that on another night when there's not a lot to talk about. But we could sit here and debate the political merits of it, of political correctness, but there are TV shows that, I mean, go look at Archie Bunker and All in the Family. There's a great, CNN's got a great documentary series, The History of the Sitcom. And now they've got, I think, The History of Black Television. Like The History of Black TV is one of their new series that they have on. It's on Sunday nights, like 9 o'clock, something like that. And you watch these things and understand where black television was, 30, 40 years ago versus where it is now, and the progression of acceptance and the proliferation of blacks in entertainment and on television and starring roles. And it's fantastic to watch. You think of a show like Blackish. I mean, and again, you think of oh, it was a great show. You think of TV 40 years ago. And 40 years seems like a long time in our life, But in the history, when you think about the progression of, the last 2,200 years to where we are now, or even the last 150 or the last 200 years or 250 years, if you start thinking back to slavery and Jim Crow and all these different things, the speed, and it's never fast enough, let's be honest about it, but the speed in recent years with which we're seeing more progression in terms of the ideas and different types of things that you're seeing on television, different types of voices and the diversity of thought and the diversity of opinion that you see on television now, I mean, it's night and day from where we were even 10 or 15 years ago and 20 and 30 years ago. Well, social media's got its ups and downs, though. I mean, yeah, social media is a tough one to sort of support, because there's just the social media is the Wild West. There's nothing policing it, really. TV, there is still a top voice at a network that will green light or put the kibosh on something. In social media, it's just the Wild West. I mean, you literally have a billionaire who bought one of the most popular social media platforms and has done everything in his power, whether consciously or subconsciously, to crash it in the last 10 months, 8 months, 7 months, with Twitter, which is now going to be called X. Oh, that's done. If you go to Twitter, if you go to twitter.com right now, in the corner, the blue bird is gone. It's just been replaced by an X. It's over. That's it. And if you go to x.com, if I'm not mistaken, it will take you to Twitter. Make sure I'm right here. See if it's not. No, it's not x.com. There's something that is rerouting to Twitter, but Twitter is now X. So if you want to follow me on X, at the back page, if you want to follow me over there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's real, dude. That's real. It happened early this morning. They officially took the blue bird disappeared off of Twitter. And in the last month, I've put up my subscriber platform, and they still haven't approved it. It's been a month since I applied for my listeners to be able to subscribe to special content that we want to offer. And 1 month after I've done that, X has still not approved my my thingamajiggy. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I can't start offering this really cool content that we want to be able to bring to our Twitter followers and all that. If you're not following me on X, formerly known as Twitter, I got to say that now, you could do so on X at the back page. Again, on X at the back page. And hopefully soon we'll be able to offer you guys our new subscription service, which is going to have all sorts of cool things. The opportunity, subscriber only contests, a subscriber only show every week that is just for you guys, on Twitter at the back page. If you're not following me there right now, they are in the bottom of the 8th inning. Arizona leads St. Louis 6-5 tonight. Arizona and the Dodgers battling atop the AL West. Toronto and the Dodgers doing battle out in LA tonight. That game is tied at 2 at last check. We'll see if that's still the case. Oh, Pirates lead the Padres as well. I forgot about that game. Pirates lead the Padres 8-4. Padres are 48-52 on the season. You start looking at the wild card out in the National League right now. San Diego is 5.5 back of the third wild card spot. The Mets are 7 back. I mean, here's the thing. If the Padres run the table this week, if they can win some games this week, are they buyers at the deadline? Do they stand firm at the deadline? I don't know. I think the Mets are going to be selling off in the next 7 days. It's just a question of how much. Mets have dropped 6 of 10. Padres 5-5 in their last 10. Final hour of the cash-in is right around the corner. Why don't you come on back? It's SportsMap Radio. No. Yeah, what is it? Oh, Jesus. All right, send it to me.
Show me a picture. I got an autograph. Yes. No, you yes. Me. Yes. I met you. Where? Tell me about him. Show me a picture. Show me a picture. I got an autograph. Show me a picture. How many rings you got? Show me a picture. 9. I got a question. 9. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. We got the same amount. And no, but we don't got the same bank account. Oh, you're too famous to be acting like that. No. Don't play the victim now. Yes. No. Yes. No, you yes. Met me. Yes. I met you. Where? Tell me about him. Show me a picture. Show me a picture. I got an autograph. Show me a picture. How many rings you got? Show me a picture. 9. I got a question. 9. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. We got the same amount. And no, but we don't got the same bank account.
That's great.
Oh, you're too famous to be
That's great. That is great. Love it. It's awesome. Dude, I will tell you, now that you're doing this show regularly, if you come across stuff during the day, that you think is funny or, a good little ending story for a segment or even just a good idea for a topic, feel free to send it to me. You're now part of the show, so you're welcome to do that. Yeah, wait. Oh, I know. I know. Trust me. of a Monday/Tuesday edition of the show. It's good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio app. Andrew Chafin is on to close it out for the Arizona Diamondbacks in the, I think the ninth inning. He's got 8 saves and 11 opportunities this year. ERA of 2.97. Just looking at what's on my screen, that's all. Just giving you the stats as they are in front of me. Well, it's solved. I mean, Victor Wembanyama is going to be a bust because Olden Polynice says so. Let me ask you something. Charles, do you actually know who Olden Polynice is? And you can be honest if you do or don't. Okay, thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Chris Broussard asked Olden Polynice, is there too much hype in Victor Wembanyama? And Victor Wembanyama thinks he's going to be, Olden Polynice thinks he's going to be Sean Bradley. Olden Polynice played in the NBA, 20 years ago. And I mean, he was a decent player, but he's not the guy I'm going to get like all-star insights. And look, maybe Wemby will wind up being a bust. It wouldn't be the first guy that's been heavily hyped and winds up coming short of expectations. But, well, I mean, when it becomes a headline because Olden Polynice says that he's going to be a bust, you're just kind of like, really? That's a story. You guys text the show. I always say I'm going to read them, and I've been bad tonight. I haven't. 888-670-8549 from anywhere in America. 888-670-8549. By the way, I want to look at the odds to win the AL West. I want to see what the odds are for who wins the AL West, because I'm betting that Houston is probably the favorite, even though they're not winning the division right now, technically. Let's see. Houston is, they're 2 back, I believe, of the Rangers in the AL West, but I'll bet you they're the favorite to win it. And I think I would take that bet right now because I think they are going to win the AL West. I'm curious if folks in our Dallas audience, 97.1 The Freak, down there in Dallas, if you sort of feel like the wheels are coming off this thing. Like, Texas will make the playoffs. They'll be a wild card team. They're too good not to be. But unless they address some major issues in terms of the composition of this team pitching-wise, both bullpen and the starting pitching, it would not shock me in the least bit if they make the playoffs, but certainly don't reach their fullest potential. David in Austin, Texas, texting the show, listening on 104.9 The Horn, says he's unhappy that his Astros are losing. Well, they wound up winning the game, David, so all's well that ends well for you, sir. Another text coming in. Let's see here. Why is my computer so slow? James in Detroit, Michigan says, hey, Jason, interesting comparison between the Orioles and the Yankees. The Orioles, Rangers, Marlins, and Reds are my 4 good surprising teams in MLB this season. Never saw either of them be at where they are currently at the start of the season. It's absolutely true. But what we talked about earlier in the show, if you missed it, is a prospect in, the Orioles have this cache of prospects that have come up, and they've all delivered, like, from the moment they've gotten into the bigs. They've never looked overwhelmed. They've never looked like they were in a situation where they could not succeed at the major league level. And it's hard to hit on all your prospects, and it feels like the Orioles have basically hit on all their prospects. Whereas the Yankees, again, since Aaron Judge, give me the last Yankee prospect that has really been a blockbuster hit in the Bronx. I'll wait. Let me know. And the Yankees have been largely a team of manufacturing stars, taking stars from other teams, taking imports from other major league teams. I mean, go look at them right now. Josh Donaldson, who's now out for the season with injury. Gleyber Torres, that's a Yankee prospect. He's been, kind of up and down. Certainly one of their most regular producers, though, this year. Rizzo at first base. Jose Trevino, until he got hurt, was their catcher. They got him from Texas. Go look at the outfield. Judge, obviously, when he's playing. But everybody in their outfield is from another team. I mean, when the Yankees were winning championships, it was with a mixture of homegrown prospects and guys that they would go and, pick up at the trade deadline or make a trade for, that sort of thing. David Cone, David Wells, those kind of guys. John Wetland, Jeff Nelson, Mike Stanton. Go through the list. But you put those together with some of your homegrown prospects. The Yankees weren't trying to buy championships. Right now, largely, the Yankees are trying to buy their way and trade their way because their prospects just haven't picked up the slack. Whereas you look at Baltimore right now, it feels like half their lineup is prospects. No joke, if not more. Half the lineup for the Orioles, if not more, is prospects. Go look at the box score tonight. I don't know if Austin Hayes has always been. Yeah, he's somebody they drafted. Anthony Santander, Orioles, they drafted him. Mountcastle, we know, was a Orioles prospect. So that's the first three hitters in the lineup, right? Let's see. Keep going through this. Let's just play this out here for a second. Gunnar Henderson, we know. Jordan Westberg, we know. Literally the first five guys in their lineup tonight. The first five guys they put up at the plate tonight were all homegrown. Then Aaron Hicks, who obviously they got from the Yankees. Let's see, where did Urias come from? I don't know if he is Ramon Urias, homegrown, their third baseman. McCann is not, and I believe Mateo is a former Yankee prospect, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Yeah, I think so. But, I mean, you're still talking, 6, 7 guys in the lineup tonight are homegrown prospects. This team is 62-38. They've won 62 of their first 100 games this year. They have the second best winning percentage in baseball after the Atlanta Braves. And we've done so much talking about how good the Braves are at 64-34. Baltimore's 2 games, 4 games behind them on the loss side, but 2 behind them on the win side. And Atlanta's dropped 6 of 10. Baltimore's going in the right direction. They've won 7 of 10. Listen, I don't know if here's the crazy part. You ready for something crazy? This is not Yankee bias. If you gave me Houston against Baltimore, if you gave me the Yankees against Baltimore, I'd take the Yankees or Houston in a long series against them. Because I don't know if Baltimore's ready to win in the playoffs. They're great. They're built well for the regular season. But when you get these young guys who have never played in the playoffs, put them all in the postseason for the first time, not a lot of veteran leadership there. This is where an Aaron Hicks could probably pay dividends for them. The fact that they went and got him from the Yankees, it seemed like a nice move, pick him up off the scrap heap. He's hit a few home runs for him. But Aaron Hicks has postseason experience with the Yankees. He's going to be so invaluable to that team when we get to October, where Baltimore will be playing baseball for the first time in 4 years. I think they made the playoffs in the really COVID shortened season in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. I think Baltimore might have made the playoffs that year as a wild card, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, somebody will correct me. But guys like Aaron Hicks, they could really use some veteran leadership right now in Baltimore. Go get some veteran. That can, even if it's just somebody that gets an at bat here and there. Yeah, I know it takes up a roster spot and that stuff matters, but if I were Baltimore, I'd go and find some of that veteran leadership right now that this team really doesn't have outside of Aaron Hicks. Where are the veteran guys that have been in this position before? So how about this? Top of the ninth in Arizona, Diamondbacks leading the lowly Cardinals 6-5. Paul Goldschmidt at the plate, bases loaded, 1 out. And this closer Chafin trying to wrap it up here. Oh boy. And he got a full count with the bases loaded. This is what we live for. Where's St. Louis? They've got to be out of it, right? In the wild card here. Yeah, they're 9.5 back. So, I mean, they could be dealers at the deadline. Arenado could be on the move. St. Louis could send Arenado somewhere else. Boy, I don't know if anybody could have envisioned it going so badly off the rails for the Cardinals the way it has this year. So we'll see if the Diamondbacks could close it out here. They are leading, they are trailing the Dodgers in the AL West by 4 games right now, and Goldschmidt drives in 2 with an RBI single to left. Oh, drives in 1, sorry. Tied at 6 are the Cardinals and Diamondbacks. So 6-6 Arizona and St. Louis in the top of the ninth in Arizona tonight. I'll tell you, not for nothing, Diamondbacks right now are in the wild card race. They're in the top spot, but here, I've said this before, there are 5 teams right now in the National League. There are 5 teams all within a half a game of each other for 3 wild card spots in the National League. All right, we're coming back. Stay with us. I didn't hear any music. What happened there? Charles, I didn't hear any music going to break. Yeah, I didn't hear anything going to break. So I wasn't looking at the time because I was looking at the game. What wasn't coming through? The music? All right. No, I'm not hearing commercials either. Are we in the break? Oh, okay. So what's up over there? Nothing. I'm not hearing anything. Nope. But they're running. It's just not coming through the board. It's actually nothing, dude. Yeah. And nothing's playing on the SportsMap radio app either. We welcome you back. Good to have you with us on this Monday edition of the show. Apologize for any technical difficulties you might be dealing with as you listen to us tonight. The phone number, 1-800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. The text line is open, 888-670-8549, 888-670-8549. And I don't think we're going out over the app either, Charles, just so you know. So I don't even know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure of what's going on right now. Yeah, because we're not going out over the app right now, as far as I can tell. And I take it back. We are going out over the app, Charles. I was able to confirm we are going out over the app. So anyway, we're still following this Cardinals Diamondbacks game. They are in the top of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded, 6-6 St. Louis and Arizona. Big game for the Diamondbacks. Okay. So Diamondbacks, and again, I mentioned it before, there are 5 teams right now. You've got 5 teams in the National League competing for 3 wildcard spots. Arizona's 54-46, Cincinnati 55-47, Miami and San Francisco are 54-47, and Philadelphia is 53-47. I mean, that is as tight as it gets right now. And the Giants have lost 6 in a row. They're going in the wrong direction. Arizona's lost 4 in a row. They're going in the wrong direction. Like, who wants it right now? I don't know if anybody does. And in the American League, you've got something very similar going on. Where basically, you know, if we go all the way to Seattle at 5 games out of the wild card, you've got 6 or 7 teams in the mix for 3 wild card spots. And this is what baseball wanted. This is why they added the 3rd wild card. This is what they wanted. They want to make it tough for teams to go into fire sale mode at the trade deadline. Wow, Chafin walks in a run. Yeeks. St. Louis leads Arizona 7-6 in the bottom of the 9th. Yikes. Tough night for the Diamondbacks closer, who looks every bit the part of a closer, but tonight didn't perform the part of a closer. Blue Jays have taken a 3-2 lead in the top of the 8th against the Dodgers. Toronto continuing to hang on to the 3rd wild card spot in the American League right now at 55-45. They are 2 games clear of Boston and New York coming into tonight. And I mentioned it before, Yankees and Mets play a big 2-game series the next couple of days. Bigger for probably the Yankees than the Mets. I mean, look, the Mets are 7 back as far as the wild card in the National League is concerned. And you'd have to think that, barring winning every game this week, going into the weekend, they've got to be taking calls on just about everybody. Short of maybe Justin Verlander, they've got to be taking calls on just about everybody. I mentioned I wanted to see the division winner odds over on FanDuel, the unofficial sports book of the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. Unofficial, why? Because they're not paying. AL West right now is the one that I find most compelling. And see, now I'm shocked at these odds. Texas is minus 125 to win the AL West right now, as of right this second. Houston is plus 100. I would run to your nearest legal bookmaking institution and take the Astros plus 100. It's not huge odds. I mean, you're not making tons of money on it, but the ability to still get Houston at plus money. Is there anybody out there that thinks Houston isn't going to win that AL West right now with the direction these two teams are going? And again, you know me. I'm not a huge Astros fan, but I think you got to take Houston right now. They've won 7 of 10. They get the first one tonight at home against Texas, walking it off. Texas is minus 125. Houston is plus 100 right now on the odds out there. AL Central right now, Minnesota is minus 470. And I'll tell you, you can get the Guardians still at good money, plus 350, and they're only 4 games back. And I'm sure they've got some more games to play against Minnesota here before the end of the year. They're only 3 back on the loss side. I know Cleveland's dropped 6 of 10. Minnesota's won 8 of 10. Could argue they might be peaking a little too soon. Who knows? Minnesota's won 4 straight. But the Twins are a big number, minus 470. That's a lot of juice. And look, they should, in theory, win this division. They are the best team. If you look up and down the lineup, look at the rotation, look at the bullpen. I mean, Minnesota should win that division. But right now, you could still get Cleveland at plus 350. I would take it. 10 to win 35. AL East, Tampa Bay is still the favorite to win the division, despite the fact that Baltimore is now 4 games clear of the Rays. I mean, that is remarkable. Wow, Tyler O'Neill, 3-run double. He clears the bases in the top of the 9th. St. Louis has blown it open in Arizona. It is 10-6 Cardinals. Tyler O'Neill clearing the bases, and it's going to send Diamondbacks fans home in a very grumpy mood tonight. That thing is just about a wrap in Phoenix. So Tampa Bay is minus 125. Baltimore is plus 130. Not a lot of faith in the market when it comes to Baltimore right now, which is remarkable, considering they are 4 games up on the loss side against the Rays and just acquitted themselves nicely in a weekend series in Tampa Bay. NL Central right now, you've got Milwaukee minus 175, the Reds plus 180. Again, should be a Milwaukee division. But Cincinnati has hung tough this long. Cubs way back of the pack. They're at plus 750. They're 7 games back in the NL Central. I'm surprised they're even still at that good a price. NL East, nobody's touching Atlanta, so we don't even need to go there. The Dodgers are minus 1,000 right now. Boy, this is something. I mean, if you're talking about the most... look, I mean, the most value you might get right now for any of the divisions as it relates to the sports books is in the NL West. I know the Dodgers are the Dodgers, and they should win the division. They're minus 1,000. Dodgers are minus 1,000 right now to win the NL West. And they're up 5 on the loss side of Arizona and San Francisco. But you could still get San Francisco at plus 1,200. Again, they're 4.5 out. I get it. You could get the Diamondbacks at plus 1,400. And they're going to be 5 back possibly at the end of the night on the loss side. But that's still, I mean, with 60 games still to play in the season, to tell me you could still get Arizona at plus 1,400 and the Giants at plus 1,200, that's, I don't know if either of those teams win that division, but there's some real value there still for both of those teams. There's no getting around it. There's still some real value there on both Arizona and the Giants. So that's where we are on that right now. 40-40. Ronald Acuna Jr. to join the 40-40 club. Right now, he is plus 280, yes. Minus 390, no. So that's where we are with Acuna right now on the 40-40 bet. And so far for the season. Make sure you count me down there, Charles, in case I can't hear the music. Oh, there it is. I could actually hear it. Look at that. See? Thank goodness for small miracles. Acuna's at 23 home runs and 46 steals. So I'd say it's a pretty long shot for him to get to 40-40, unless he gets really hot here in the final 60 games. And with a huge lead, they're probably going to rest him where they can. All right, we're coming back on the other side. Talk about suspensions in the NFL. Thanks. So what happened? Yeah. On its own? Jesus Christ. That happened once before with a different board op. That same thing happened and he had to bring it up on another channel. I almost suggested that too, because that's the only other time that happened. That was what the issue was. Yeah. All right. No animals were harmed in the making of this film. It's good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio. SportsMap Radio. Hanging out with you guys on this Monday. I've Sean
heard that.
Drotar's with Mile High Radio, one
I've
of our
heard that.
affiliates here at SportsMap Radio, carries my show. Get some thoughts with him here in just a moment on this. I think they said this is the 10th gambling suspension that we've had in the NFL. And this one kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think a lot of us knew this one was coming. You know, whereas there's been some warning a day or two before on a lot of these other suspensions related to the NFL sports betting policy. This isn't one of them. Sean Drotar, you can hear him afternoons over on Mile High Radio, joins us on the Cash In. It's good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio, SportsMap Radio app. Hanging out with you guys on this Monday. It's good to have you with us. SportsMap Radio, SportsMap Radio app. Hanging out with you guys on this Monday. Sean Drotar's with My Radio, one of our affiliates here at SportsMap Radio, carries my show. Get some thoughts with him here in just a moment on this. I think they said this is the 10th gambling suspension that we've had in the NFL. And this one kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think a lot of us knew this one was coming. Whereas there's been some warning a day or two before on a lot of these other suspensions related to the NFL sports betting policy. This isn't one of them. Sean Drotar, you can hear him afternoons over on Mile High Radio, joins us on the Cash In on SportsMap Radio. And Sean, I mean, look, you know as much as we do, but how surprising was it to get this news today about Uwazurike?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes out of the blue, like you pointed out, it's kind of interesting. But I guess, as you mentioned, it's the 10th one of these suspensions. So I guess we need to stop being surprised that they happen. But it really is sort of fascinating because you're looking at a breakout of these suspensions, even though other leagues have similar type of things set up into their rules. And the NFL just seems to have a little bit more of an issue with it. I know the rosters are larger, and that can make it seem to be maybe bigger than it is. But these aren't really complicated. In the NFL, you're not told you can't bet on sports. You're just simply told you can't bet on NFL games, and you can't bet when you're in an NFL affiliated property. Whether that's a stadium that has a sports book in it, or a facility, or something to that nature. And in Uwazurike's case, it's something of a It's not much of an issue, I think, for the Denver Broncos so much as it is embarrassment, given the fact that the new ownership, of course, after last year, ends up being such a frustrating disappointment. To have this go right before veterans report into training camp, which happens tomorrow for the Broncos, and such a pivotal year for them under Sean Payton. So it's not the way you want to start, knowing that you're right on that first day. These are the questions you have to answer as a franchise.
Here's an interesting thought, though, Sean. And just play this out with me here. I'm just thinking out loud. You've got the Broncos. You've got the Avalanche. You've got the Nuggets. You've got the Rockies. You're telling me that the only guys that are betting on sports or really getting, betting on their own sports or doing things like that are these guys in the NFL? You're telling me nobody in hockey? Nobody in the NBA, which smaller rosters, granted, and nobody in baseball is betting on their own sport. It just makes me wonder if the NFL is policing it harder and has sharper teeth and more investigative tools than some of these other leagues. I just find it hard to believe that only the NFL has a problem with this.
It is, what the argument can be made there, and it really is a pretty good conclusion to make, that the NFL, which has by its nature, sort of bigger deals and everything, that they'd be more concerned about that and maybe police it more. But then again, the NFL also sort of has that protect the shield mentality, in which you would think out of everybody, out of all these leagues possible, the one that would just like to avoid the bad news if they possibly could is probably the NFL. But look, you're right. I mean, the reality is that there are all these other sports and all these other players, and this isn't happening across any other league to this extent, that maybe it is being policed in a fashion that's a little bit different, in part because, the league feels that they have maybe more to lose. But it's embarrassing, and it's embarrassing for the league, and I'm sure that they don't intend for it to be. But I guess if the idea is that they are going to consistently be involved with betting outlets, that they are deciding that for whatever reason, we're going to be extraordinarily careful. We don't want anybody messing in the situations that we don't have control over. And so, we're going to make sure that we're minding the P's and Q's. And if we've got to bounce the Uwazurike's of the world, a guy that has, 17 career tackles after being a 6th-round pick last year, so be it. They can probably live with that. So when you're talking about the Calvin Ridleys, it's different. But when you're talking about the Uwazurike's, I think the league is more than okay with those guys being a cautionary tale to the bigger fish.
Spending some time with Sean Drotar on the show tonight. Does a great job. Catch him afternoons 2 to 4, Sandy and Sean on Mile High Sports Radio, joining us here tonight on the program. What do you want to see most in these early days, coming off the Hindenburg type season the Broncos had a year ago? What are you looking for in the early days of training camp out of this team?
Well, I mean, I'm expecting significantly better performance when you're talking about practices that are run tighter. You're talking about very meticulous things. But the Broncos have, prior to hiring Sean Payton, have hired 3 consecutive first-time head coaches, and the results have been not entirely surprising in that regard. So, yes, I'm expecting sort of more efficiency, more, for lack of a better term, professionalism, organization, top-to-bottom control. But it really is going to be the return to form for Russell Wilson that's going to dominate the proceedings out here in Denver, and rightly so, because he had an uncharacteristically, completely out of the blue career, almost undefining season in which this guy who was considered to be all but a potential lock, Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, all of a sudden finds all of that in doubt because his season last year was so awful.
Did we lose Sean? Uh-oh. I think we might have lost Sean. I don't know where he went. Sean?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost you there for a second. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
That's okay.
But yeah, I think Russell Wilson's situation is going to dominate the proceedings for obvious reasons. And if the Broncos don't find a way to get him right, if Sean Payton can't find a way to get him to at least, if not at some of his all-time best, but certainly to a very effective form, it's hard to believe the Broncos can do anything. And that may be a long shot anyway, given the depth in the AFC, given the fact that this team has the Chiefs in their division. It's going to be tough, but it's probably not fair to have all eyes be on Russell Wilson, but to whom much is given, much is expected.
Yeah, that is absolutely the truth. What kind of grace period do you think they get with Peyton now? You know, sort of the new beginning. It may not click exactly the way it will in week 1 by the time we get to week 5 or 6. Does he almost have to play a little more in the preseason just to sort of get comfortable in Sean Payton's system?
I think so. I mean, what you're talking about in Russell Wilson is a guy that historically has sort of passed on the over-the-middle efforts and made sure he focuses primarily on the sidelines, something that the league is not doing as much as it used to, obviously. He's a guy that loves the deep ball in a league in which the average depth of target dropped again this year. So basically the problem with Russell Wilson is twofold. One, he was obviously awful, and you can make of that what you will. How much of that may have been on the coaching or lack thereof of Nathaniel Hackett and Wilson's efforts to basically just run things himself. But one way or the other, Russell Wilson plays a style of football that is increasingly going out of style in the NFL, holding on the ball for a really long time, taking big hits. These aren't the things that the teams want their quarterback to do anymore, but Russell Wilson continues to do it. And so it's very stylistically different. The presumption is, well, look what he did for Drew Brees. But Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, besides being smaller guys, don't really have any similarities in the way they play quarterback position. So I do think that he needs more time in it. I think he needs more time to show that he can do it. I mean, as Sean Payton said in one of the early OTAs, confidence is demonstrated ability, and I think Russell Wilson needs that.
Before I let you go, I'm going to just switch gears for 1 second and ask you about something, because I'm kind of a closet Colorado Rockies fan. Can you explain me? Look, well, I am. Well, I have a history with the organization. I was their bat boy for their AA team the very first year they were in existence. So I will always have a connection to that organization. 1994, I was a bat boy for the team. So I'll always have a connection to the organization that way. So I'm trying to understand. We know why Oakland's been this bad for this long. We know why the Royals, consistently are bad, their World Series notwithstanding. What's the excuse in Colorado? Because they spend money, fans come to the ballpark, and this team just continues to be bad year after year. Why?
Well, there are a couple things behind that, obviously. And the number one is, unfortunately, it seems that ownership has run into things that ownerships across sports sometimes do. They're convinced they're baseball people, and they are not baseball people. And so they tend to acquire the wrong players. They tend to make trades. They tend to think that there's a quick Band-Aid fix. They tend to offer $180 million to Chris Bryant over, $70 million more than anyone else is offering because they're convinced that that's the quick fix. That's part of the problem. The other part of the problem is, quite frankly, as you pointed out, people turn out. This is a top 10 team in attendance year in and year out. And what the owners have figured out is, as half the country seemingly tries to move here to Denver in the last few years, is they don't have to sell baseball. They have to sell Colorado summer. And that turns out to be a pretty darn easy sell, especially when you have a phenomenal rooftop bar and a terrific downtown location that is basically built around the stadium. It's easy to come to Denver and realize when you look at new stadiums around the league where people are trying to build a little town around it. That happened organically in Denver around Coors Field. And so they don't have to worry about selling all of that. It's all there for them. It's just been too easy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Sean, I'm glad we got to do this. I haven't talked to you in years, and let's do it again sometime, all right?
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Sean Dro. Won't you tell me why I work so hard for you? Trust me, I'm not either. Makes two of us. Put us both together. Maybe we got like half a genius. Fair enough. That is a good question. You gotta do me a favor, because I'm not organized to do it, and I really should, but it's just, I'm basically running my own board here for a lot of different things. If you could write down just a quick sentence what I do in each segment, just write down a quick sentence or type something, just so at the end of the hour we're not. It's me trying to sit here and remember in a whirlwind. It's just, yeah. But I don't think there was anything in particular. No, because I talked about the Yankees thing in the first hour too, so I don't need that. And then I did odds in the second segment. I did the odds. No, we don't need anything this hour. All right. Thank you for being a part of it tonight. It's a final in Arizona. 10-6 Cardinals come from behind to beat the Diamondbacks. That leaves just one game on the docket. So we're keeping tabs on that. Dodgers and the Blue Jays are tied at 3, top of the 9th. Runner at first for the Blue Jays and nobody out. It's gone final in San Diego where the Padres lose again. Pirates this time, 8-4. Well, I don't know how to explain the situation in San Diego. I mean, were they reading their own press? Were they starting to believe their own headlines? I don't get it. I don't get how this team could be this bad coming off the season they had last year. It really is. It's unfathomable to me. Ha-Sung Kim, Tatis is hitting 280. Kim's hitting 270. Kim hit 2 home runs tonight for the Padres in the loss. Soto 262, Machado 2. It's not like, Cronenworth's had a rough year. He's had a rough couple of years. Wow. It is gone off the deep end there. Darvish is 7-7 with a 4.80 ERA. He got lit up tonight. 4 1/3, 7 earned. I don't know. They spent in a prolific way. This year. So it just doesn't make sense to me that you've got a team that is 5 games under 500. They are 3 games better than the Pirates. And we can go through this whole thing and talk about MLB payrolls. But yeah, and the Pirates aren't blowing the world away or anything like that. But the Padres payroll, the Pirates payroll Padres payroll, $247.1 million. The Pirates payroll, $76 million. And that's got the Padres 3 losses less than the Pirates. I'll do you one better. You ready for this one, Charles? Charles, you'll like this. The Orioles payroll, they have the second best record in baseball. The Orioles payroll is $68 million. It's second to last. The only team with a lower payroll than the Orioles is the Oakland Athletics. That's staggering. It's just staggering. The Tampa Bay Rays have the 4th lowest payroll at $76 million, and they're going to be in the playoffs. The Reds have the 25th lowest payroll. If the playoffs started today, they're in. Diamondbacks, 21st lowest payroll. They'd be in if the playoffs started today. The Brewers, 20th lowest payroll. They'd be in. Although they're at $122 million. At least that's modest. The one I was talking about with Sean Drotar from Mile High Radio in Denver just a few minutes ago. The Rockies, $177 million in payroll. They're spending. It's not like they're, they're not at these crazy low levels that you're seeing some of these other teams. They just can't win. Doesn't matter what they do. The Mets payroll. Ready for this? The Mets payroll is $348 million. It is conceivable that the Mets, Yankees, Padres, and Phillies, Mets, Yankees, Padres, and Phillies, who those 4 teams, their payrolls go well over $1 billion combined. The Mets are 348, the Yankees are 279, the Padres are 247, and the Phillies are 242. Those 4 teams might all wind up missing the postseason. Never seen anything like it. And the 5th best payroll, the 5th highest payroll is the Dodgers at 228. They're going to be in. And then after that, the Angels are $218 million with the sixth highest payroll. So 5 of the top 6 payrolls in baseball might miss the postseason. It's just, it's mind-boggling is what it is. Of the top 15 teams in terms of payroll, of the top 15 teams in terms of payroll, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right now would make the postseason. 5 of the top 15 payrolls would make the postseason. Everybody else would be watching. To a degree, you have to. I mean, I think the Orioles will. Like I said, I would love to see them go get a veteran starter. Now, I don't know if Lucas Giolito, I hear, is going to wind up with the Dodgers. He's been good for the White Sox this year on a bad team. So Giolito is going to get dealt before the deadline. It's just a question as to where. In the offseason, he's going to sign with one of the West Coast teams. But as a rental, maybe the Orioles go get him for the rest of this season, and then he'll walk in free agency. The Orioles don't strike me as the kind of team that's going to want to do a rental, though. If they're going to give up prospects, you feel like they would want to get somebody long term if they're going to go and part way. And they've still got as good. I went through this tonight. They had 6 or 7 prospects in their starting lineup tonight. Okay, and that's not Charles. They've still got like 5 more that they can't even bring up because they don't have room. Guys that are like ready to play. They've got guys ready to play in the major leagues that are on the farm right now, and they can't bring them up because they don't have any room. So they got a guy, Heston Kjerstad, who is, that's a guy that could be in the big leagues today. Like, he's ready. Nowhere to put him. They got nowhere to put him. Jackson Holliday, the son of former big leaguer Matt Holliday. Jackson Holliday is a guy that's going to be ready next year. Where are they going to put all these guys? They don't have enough room for all these prospects. They might get to a point where they literally have 9 homegrown prospects in their starting lineup. And I don't know if I've ever seen anything like that. So if you've got 5 teams right now slated to make the playoffs from the top 15 payrolls, that means 7 out of the bottom 15 would make the playoffs today. It's mind-blowing. All right, it's almost time to turn out the lights, and that means...
last call.
Yep, it is time for last call. And 2 last calls for tonight. It's not just one. We'll give 2 last calls. We'll dim the lights a couple of times here on the show. I hate to do it, but one of them has to go to the Houston Astros tonight. Yep. They walk it off against the Texas Rangers in Houston. Game in which they trailed 9-6 in the 7th. They come from behind to win it. Yainer Diaz with the difference maker.
1 out, and Yainer Diaz, the batter, a couple of walks in the inning. There's a base hit into right field. Jankowski will field it. Here comes Tucker. The throw cut off. Tucker safe. Astros walk it off. 10-9.
There you go. Astros TV with the call. I don't even know if they have a TV deal anymore, do they? I'm not sure. But the Astros announcers were on the call. But that wasn't the only walk-off tonight. No, Christian Yelich, the old veteran, walking it off for the Brewers against the Reds.
Ground ball right side, base hit. He'll send Perkins. Here comes Fraley. It's over. Christian Yelich and the Brew Crew walk it off against the Reds.
There you go. Christian Yelich, the old veteran, The old guard of those Brewer teams. Big series this weekend between Milwaukee, or I should say this week between Milwaukee and Cincinnati. It's going to wrap it up for us. Nice job, Charles Carter, producing and engineering it. I'm Jason Page. We're back with you on Tuesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, for the Cash-In on SportsMap Radio. Bye! Thank you, sir. Have a good night. I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Bye. Does it for us on the video side as well. Thanks for checking us out. SportsMap Radio, the SportsMap Radio app, all of our video platforms as well. I'm Jason. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great night.